Thank you.
Please stay a lover boy.
I don't know if I will.
Please.
We'll see. Good guys finish last. That's the same.
Oh,
No, don't do that.
You need to keep all of the good things because.
Hey guys, welcome to Little Blackbird 91. Listen, I'm gonna do a quick live. I'll be on here for about half an hour. Just wanted to break something down. I found this quite interesting. Okay, because obviously I wanted to do a breakdown of all the episodes, but I won't lie to you because I've watched them all. I can't go back now and do episode breakdowns. That's not how my brain works. But I want to be honest. I wanted to break this situation down because, again, for me, attachment styles are a massive thing. And watching Demola, and I hope to say Demola, and watching Katisha is such an interesting dynamic because, for me personally, it feels like an anxious and fearful, avoidant kind of perspective, which makes for a very unique dance that's happening in a situation. But the last words that we kind of hear Demola say is that, you know, good guys finish last. Actually, technically, nice guys finish last. And in some regards, nice men tend to be quite anxious, quote unquote, to say. And so what I see with in this particular interaction is something that you may have noticed. Did you notice that Katisha never said sorry? Did you notice that Katisha in the interaction never said sorry? This is not a villain video, by the way. I'm just going to break down what actually happened between the two of them. She never actually said sorry in the whole conversation. Now, she might have said it in text. She might have said it and they edited it out. I don't know why they would do that personally. Again, maybe they're trying to give it a villain edit. I don't know. But she never in that interaction ever said sorry for actually what she did. Because I believe that Katisha's too focused on not being the bad guy. Right, and she instead of actually saying saying sorry to him, right, and starting off there by saying, hey, when you hurt someone, let me come out and say I'm really, really sorry. It's why I actually said that I think that Javen and Katisha are the same people, but we've done that live already. But this interaction was really interesting because of what I felt like the interaction was for. She got the freedom to be able to have a conversation with Demola because Javen gave her the permission to, right? Because she didn't want to offend Javen. She didn't want to lose him by doing something. But she felt pressure because she had it on her mind. What was the pressure? The pressure for her is that she is looking like the bad guy. And she doesn't want to look like the bad guy. How do we know that? Because by the end of episode 8, her conversation with Megan was, I thought I was the bad person. Katisha, you still are. Okay, it doesn't change anything. Right? It doesn't change anything. But why does that happen? Because we talk about behaviors on here. It's not about condemning somebody, but why does that happen? Well, the feeling, the reason why this happens is because the relationship that Katisha has when it comes to her guilt and her shame means she found it difficult to apologize to Demola. And because in her head, she has to, if she admits the sorry, it would mean that she also, if she admits the sorry, it would mean that she would have to be vulnerable in this moment and accept the image and the reputation. Also, sometimes you've been a victim for so long that when you are now the bad person, you can't accept that you're the bad person, right? And of course, Javen is the same kind of person. He's a bad person on that respect, in this respect too, just like she was, right? That's why the two of them found each other, right? That's why I said earlier on, the mirrors have been meeting each other. In this interaction, it was solely about the fact that she wanted to acquit herself of the guilt that she felt about what she did. So rather than saying sorry, it wasn't really about sorry. It's about her being able to explain why she did what she did. Okay. All right. And that's because of the relationship again with guilt. But let's break this down from an attachment perspective for both people in this scenario. I think this is really key, right? First and foremost, I do believe that Demola kind of presents more of an anxious perspective and Katisha presents more of a fearful, avoidant perspective. So let me explain what that is. For those people that are anxiously attached, and again, this is my perspective, people that are anxiously attached usually grow up in households where there is where they're loved by performance, not by who they are, okay? They're in households where they are loved when they perform, when they're good at something, when they are helpful, when they are getting grades, when they are making money. It's always some level of performance with them in their household, and they learn that love comes with servitude almost in a sense, or action, and they're not loved for who they actually are. It's conditional kind of love in a sense. And what they realize is that if they don't do these things, they'll be abandoned. So what do? They cling because they're afraid of being rejected, right? And abandoned in that scenario. Okay, so they tend to chase people in order to hold on to them, right? And they struggle with the areas, they struggle with boundaries of saying no, because by saying no would mean putting up some boundary, and that potentially means that the person could end up saying they don't want to be around you no more. Big things. Okay, so then we have Katisha, who I think is more of a fearful avoidant perspective, right? They grew up in households where there's chaos. They grew up in households where the parents are both the comforter and quote unquote the abuser, emotionally, verbally, financially, sexually, physically, even sometimes, right? They grew up in households where there's chaos. They grew up in households where there is no predictability. There is things are just almost spontaneous and random, and they are unsafe in that particular environment, whether it's emotionally or physically, it could be even sexually, whatever it is, they can be unsafe in that particular household. This births what we call a fearful avoidant and the patterns. Now, when you get a fearful avoidant and an anxious person, it's really intriguing, because the fearful avoidant person actually has both the anxious and the avoidant traits. So now they're dating somebody who's more anxious. If you've ever been in that dynamic, then you know you turn into the avoidant. Why? Because their anxiousness pushes you to your avoidant side. When they are sure about you and wanting you, you move more to the I'm not sure situation, because you're used to being in scenarios where you're chasing people for their love, because you're used to trying to prove yourself for their love. So when you're in a scenario where you're not having to prove yourself, it feels alien, it feels out of pocket, it feels odd, it feels scary, and it almost feels a little bit like you're in an alternative universe, because actually in the dynamics you're used to, you are used to having to prove that. And when you can't prove it, then what is really your worth? If you're just getting love for you without you proving yourself, then what is this love really? Is it really love? Are they sure they really care? Do they really know me? Right? These are questions that are going to be posed. Now, when you put these two against or next to each other, sorry, or in a dating scenario, we get some interesting things, right? Like one of the things that I heard Katisha say was that she knew that Demola was very sure about her, but she wasn't as sure about him. Now, why is that important? Because she was sure about, well, quote unquote, became sure about Javin by choosing him, but he too wasn't necessarily sure about her. Familiar patterns. Now, this is intriguing because we're going to break this down from watching their interaction. Let's have a little look at this.
I see.
It's weird because obviously.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Very, I'm just trying to get it all in, but no, you look beautiful, so.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, first thing was there, he said she looked beautiful. She didn't even say anything back. She said he looked beautiful. She couldn't even drop a look. And again, I'm being facetious a little bit here, but she couldn't even drop a little, oh, you look handsome too, or nothing. She ain't dropping nothing back. No, of course she can't, because you got a man. I'm joking. I'm winding you out. I'm winding you out. I'm winding up. She got a man. I'm joking. But I'm gonna be real. Okay. So we know that in this interaction with Demola and Katisha, he definitely still likes her, right? So that's a real thing in that scenario. We know that Demola was very intentional, very affectionate, and very expressive. So much so, you know, he was buying flowers, he bought poems, he did all of those kind of things when it came to Katisha. He so much, quote unquote, was treating her right as somebody who would care about somebody. He was doing those things, right? And his affections were very clear. She was never under any false impression about where he stood. But do you know what? She said it, but she wasn't as clear, because she obviously then chose him as to what position she stood in regards to Demola. Why? Because his assurity means that she needs to be same way sure. And in fact, she mentioned this actually earlier on in the episodes about how can someone be so sure? How can he be so sure when she's not sure? And that's actually what happens between the anxious and the fearful avoidant dynamic, is that the anxious person overcommits. And this is why Demola almost, and when I say deserves to get played, this is what I mean. Because a lot of people can't see the deeper understanding here. They'll just be like, oh, he's a good guy, and da-da-da. But you're not recognizing what's happening here. He's overcommitting. And I know she promised him, so I'm going to take that into account. But I'm going to tell you what happened in the pods. He was overcommitting. What does that mean? He was too sure, too quick, without really fully checking where she stood. Now, I know she said again that she promised him, and I know. But you remember I told you this when we were watching it when we were watching it earlier in the seasons, and I gave my breakdowns in the earlier episodes, and I said to you, why is it that she doesn't give him the same level of kind of like energy back, like almost like compliments and stuff like you don't really see it back. We don't never really see those things. We see him doing things for her, but she never really did anything for him. And one thing you need to know about ladies is, man, them pay attention. If that woman doesn't do anything back for you, get rid of her. Yeah, I'm gonna say it. I'm being facetious again, but let me be real with you. You have to pay attention when you're an anxious person. You do need to pay attention, because what tends to happen is you start to write the narrative in your mind, and you start to build a picture, and you start to build an image and a movie in your head. It happens oftentimes to a lot of the ladies, and they'll have few interactions, and then they create a whole Minecraft world of where them and the other person, it's love, it's marriage, it's kids, and their projection of their future runs well ahead of them, that they're not actually present in the moment. Right? So, having said that, let's go back to more of the clip.
Were you surprised to hear from me at all?
A little bit. Obviously, after how everything happened, how it all ended.
Now, at this point, Katisha could have been like, you know what, were you supposed to hear from me? No, yes, I was. Well, I want to start off by first saying, I apologize. I kind of dragged you through the mud a little bit. I know I wasn't very sure about the situation. Nah, she ain't gonna do that, because again, it's very hard to be all the way vulnerable and sorry when you know that being sorry would mean being open and honest and being vulnerable to the fact that you could be wrong and that you've been perceived as wrong, right? So his words and his actions suggest high investment early, okay? All right, and it seemed like he bonded quickly, offers consistency, leans into emotional intensity rather than actually just moving along with it. And I've been here. This is me being real with you. I've been in those scenarios where, you are getting on with somebody, but you've gone a little bit too far ahead. And you're now a little bit too sure. Your energy is a little bit too much. I want to make you my girlfriend. And it's not allowed the other person time to really come to fruition of their decision that they actually want to make. And listen, hey, can I be honest with you? Maybe you need to lock it off, maybe to shut it down, whatever. But sometimes you do skip ahead of the time. And what that does, it puts pressure on the other person. A bit like when you say I love you to someone, a bit like how Megan and Kieran had not issue, but like a little conversation. Like when someone says I love you, it puts pressure on the other person. And in that space, when you're there, you're confident about how you feel because you've made up your mind so soon. And the other person's like, I haven't even got there yet. I haven't even got there yet. I'm not even at that place. And we kind of knew that, but he wouldn't have known this. But Katisha went into the girls' lounge and was talking about, I've kind of got a boyfriend now. And I was like, And the fact that we know that she changed her mind within 24 hours lets us know that, listen, baby was never convinced. Yeah, she was never convinced. If she changed her mind within 24 hours, she was never convinced.
Yeah. Wanted to kind of make sure that you're okay.
Yeah, no. Obviously, when it happened, it was a surprise, right? Because obviously, I've walked in there thinking, oh, yeah, this is the moment. Now,
can we be honest here? She did not want to make sure he was okay. Now, I know she said that for goodwill. We all say it at the beginning of a conversation. But the actual reality is that she didn't want to make sure he was okay. The whole conversation that she's having with him is actually for her. Okay, the conversation is for her. It's for her to feel better about herself, and I don't mean it in a bad way. We all do this kind of stuff, right? It is for her to feel like, I don't want you to be in a bad place. I don't want you to hate me. I don't want you to have, and men do this a lot to women too. I don't want you to be feeling like you've been shortchanged by me. I just don't want you to have any bad blood for me, because I feel uncomfortable that someone could have those feelings about me, right? Rather than focusing on what they've done. Okay. Now we know with fearful avoidance, what happens to them is that they can be torn between craving and loving. They can be hot, they can be cold, you know, they can be intense and then really withdrawn the next minute as well, right? We know that her history is she has a history of men cheating on her and abandonment issues, obviously being kicked up in those particular spaces, right? She has a problem when it comes to putting herself quote unquote first, and she doesn't take compliments very well, and she struggles to receive that love, which means she feels things are often too good to be true. And I think that's where Demola actually really comes in. He's too good to be true. It's too good that somebody would actually want me and love me for just being me. But the problem is did Demola love her for being her? How many times do I tell you that a lot of times with fearful avoidance, they wear a mask? And I think I'm gonna share some theories around this. I think part of Katisha's issue with Demola is that he was too nice. And his nicety exposed her for not being as nice. I don't mean that she's rude. I don't mean that she's disrespectful. I don't mean that she's a wild one. More of the case of his niceness leaves no room for her to make mistakes. And so her own feeling of when it comes to her own emotional safety, when it comes to being criticized or being called out, or, you know, how she feels about making mistakes, how she feels about herself. And then here it's an unsafe place. And then seeing someone like Demola, and I'm not trying to big him up on a pedestal. No, I want to make it very clear, because he presented nice, because he presented as somebody who was good and wholesome, and you know, doesn't seem to put a foot wrong. He just, you know, he's romantic, he's caring, he's this and that. And all that happens is you start thinking, will I be able to make mistakes without in this place, or would I have to meet his standard? And can I even meet his standard? And the moment you feel you can't meet that standard, you want to slip away and move away. You see, Javen's standard is easily met. No offense to Javen, but I want to be real with you. His standard can be met. Why? He's a little bit mysterious. He's a little bit cold. He's a little bit withdrawn. He's somebody that, you know, he'll make some mistakes. He'll say some wild things. He's going to say some things where he's not great. So actually, I can hide in that space. She did mention that, Nalani. Yes, she did mention that. Yeah. Okay. She did mention that. So she can hide with Javen. But with Demola, she can't. Again, this doesn't mean Demola's better at all. Does not mean that at all. Actually, this is an indication of the attachment. You see, Demola too has an issue potentially coming around performance. You see, Demola can't be loved without performance. So you have to understand, I'm not saying that Demola isn't that guy who buys flowers, does all these things. No. But his last statement should tell you everything you should know. A man that's good will never tell you good guys finish last, because he recognizes that good guys don't finish last. Nice guys finish last. Men that don't have boundaries finish last. Men that use their niceness to manipulate finish last. Men that accept friend zone knowing that they're not a friend are the ones that finish last. Men that tend to orbit rather than being truthful about their intentions tend to finish last. I don't make statements about men finishing last. Here's why I don't make it, because I know we don't finish last. So that told me immediately where his mindset was. He's in performance mode. It does not mean that necessarily he's trying to be manipulative, but he too is wearing a mask. And this is where it's going to get a little bit interesting. Okay. It's going to get really interesting. From those of you who are attachment-based people, you know it's going to get interesting. Here's why it's going to get interesting. Because when performance meets performance, hey, hey, God, my God. Father, we thank you. May your name be blessed. When performance meets performance, we get a problem. Here's what I mean by performance. When you wear the mask of being great, but not necessarily not being able to show some of, not the vulnerability, by the way, because he showed vulnerability, he shared the stories, but not the scars, maybe some of the you're not able to show, you know, beyond your representative. And of course, this happens with time. Okay, right? What happened is this with Katisha, she also wears a mask. She's also a performer. Guess what she really felt when Demola likes her, he hasn't got past her representative. So how can he really like her? Right? No, let's deep it. Demola, the way he's shaped up, he liked her too quickly, quote unquote, to say from a fifth avoidant perspective, he's liked her too quickly, and he hasn't seen all the sides of her. Javen, who liked her but kind of was being mysteriously and kind of withdrawn, and not necessarily as quote unquote, not necessarily being as forthcoming with his likes and his wants and all that kind of things, made her work a little bit. And so actually he has to look beyond. Okay, he's not looking at her representative and fall in love with that representative because she's having to work. But Demola's not making her work, and he's loving her. And she's like, wait, I've put on a performance, and you love me. And one thing that's also, you have to be honest about, this is through my coaching as well, what I've learned, is that once a fifth avoidant puts on the mask, right, until the mask is revealed, it's very difficult for them to believe that you love them. It's very difficult. It's very difficult for the fifth avoidant to really trust you that you like them, because they know themselves that they're still performing. And until you break the performance, go beyond the mask and get to the crux of who they are, then they can't trust that you really, really like them for them. And that's a difficult thing. So performer meets performer. See, but Demola likes her performance. Or I rather should say, like, Demola likes to, like, there's a lot of guys like this, right? You know, there's, as much as there's some depth there, the surface is what they like. I'm not saying Demola's a surface person. I think he's a deep person. Okay, I just want to be honest with you. Okay. But what they like is the surface. And so what ends up happening is, right, that they get intrigued and excited, but never knew the depth of who Katisha is. And I'm not blaming necessarily Demola in that space, right? But you did. There can be a case where they don't know the depth of that person. Now, could it be that Katisha was hiding that side of her? Yes, Katisha was hiding that side of her. Absolutely. Absolutely. She never gave that side to Demola. I don't think she ever did give that deep side to her. I don't think so. You know why? Because she never felt safe. Now, is that on Demola? Partly. But is that on her? Yes. But it's partly on Demola too. Did she give the deep side to Javen? No. Not all the way. No. She didn't give all the way. So why choose Javen then if they're both not giving the deep side? Well, because, again, she can hide with Javen. She doesn't have to step up with Javen. See, Katisha wasn't ready to step up. Some of you are not ready. Some of you are not ready to step up for the partner that you're meant to be with. This is both men and women. And this is why some men will cheat on you with some ugly chick. I'm just going to be real with you. This is why some men will choose a girl that they're settling with. They don't even like her, bro. But because she treats him like a king, which is actually a good thing. It's part of the, you know, we want men to feel like that. But they'll choose someone who treats them like a king, but they don't like them. Why? Because they're unwilling to step up for a woman that they actually really, really want. It's on both sides of the pond, by the way. It's both men and women do this. We're just witnessing it right now. And so when you're not healed, you will operate on the level that you believe is your level. Right? Now, let me give you an example of this. How many of you are applying for a 200K job? In fact, if you saw your job, the job that you do right now, and it said it put the specifications of what you do now in your job, but then they said the salary was 200K, would you not question it? If you know that you're getting paid 80K and all of a sudden they're saying your exact job, they put it as 200K, would you not go, why is my exact job almost 120K more than what I'm getting paid here? And the specification of the job looks exactly the same as mine. You start questioning yourself. Why do you start questioning yourself? Because you start asking, there must be something more. Am I worth this? Am I worthy of this? There must be something else behind it. Right? And so we automatically start thinking of things, even though the job specification is exactly what yours is, blood. And is that not the reason why some of us will look at the 200K job and be like, I don't think my skills go to that level. I'll choose the 80K level one. That's my skill level. Even though the specifications are exactly the same. So what people will do is they will lowball themselves in order to be comfortable. It can be very difficult. It's not easy to stretch yourself. I'm not going to lie to you. It's not easy to stretch yourself. It takes some courage and some bravery to get yourself in a place to stretch yourself in order to receive what you're destined to receive. It can be very difficult. Some of us have had to learn that. How many of you, when you start your new job, do you negotiate your salary? How many of you? Some of us, you know you can negotiate, but you won't even negotiate. You're afraid. Let me just take my salary as it is. It's good enough as it is. Let's not rock the boat. You know what I mean? I'm just starting. I can negotiate later on. You won't. And there are some people who are negotiating. The moment they get the job contract, they'll tell, listen, hey, I love it, but let me tell you this now, this is not my salary level. Let's up it up by at least 5 to 10K. And you will even look at them and be like, you might even not even start hating on them, like, why are they rocking the boat for? Why are they asking for 5 to 10K? They should just be happy. No, they know their worth. And so they're not willing to settle. And that's what we're seeing with Katisha. We're seeing with Demola. We're seeing with Javan. When you are broken and you're hurt and you're wounded, you're insecure, you tend to try and put yourself at a place where it's actually lowballing you. Okay? All right? So let me pause it there. Let's go back to where we were.
This is kind of who I saw as potentially being my future wife. I wrote a proposal and all that, when then just the opposite. It was a big shock at the time. I just felt a little bit blindsided when it all happened.
No, I know.
Okay, so he already, like he said, you know, he saw her as his wife. I'm going to say something. Because I've been in this position before. So this is coming from a personal experience. When I say this, there are men like Demola. I've been there, so I know. Okay. I say this about the ladies, and I say it to the women all the time. If you followed me long enough, you know. I've said it to the ladies. I say it to you all the time. Don't be naive. It costs you to be naive. I'm gonna say something. Katisha, while she may be a performer, is not the greatest liar. Let me say it one more time for you. Whilst I believe Katisha may have been in performance mode, she's not the greatest liar. What does that mean? It means Demola sensed there was something not quite right. I'm going to tell you the truth. This is how I feel. This is my personal experience. This is my personal experience that I'm kind of projecting onto the scenario to tell you that he knew that something wasn't quite right. Let me tell you why. Because a lot of times what happens in these scenarios is that the anxious side of the person starts to overcompensate, and they start saying things like, and of course he's in a show, and I get it. When he just said, I saw you as my wife. Did Katisha say the same thing to you? Did Katisha say the same thing to you? Because she see you as her husband. Did Katisha let you know, listen, you're the right man for me? I know she promised at the end, by the way, guys. I know she said, obviously, I won't change my mind, but that's all she promised, that she won't change her mind. I said, did she confirm? Did she verbalize strong feelings for you? Did she tell you that she loves you? Did she tell you she cares about? Did she say that, you know what, I see my future with you? Did she say, like, and when you start really paying attention, you'll start realizing people weren't even talking, bro. When you were talking a lot because you could also sense there was a gap inside. I say it to ladies all the time. If you've followed me a long time, you know I've said it before. Anxious people tend to fill a gap of silence with their own narrative. Okay? A lot of people, okay, all right, will actually talk over the silence and interpret whatever they feel like because they're afraid of the silence. That's how people end up in situationships. Okay, so it's, again, I'm not making him the bad guy. I'm not saying he's a bad guy. What I'm saying to you is it's easily done. It happens to the ladies. Listen, and you know, I keep it a buck with everybody. It happens to the ladies in the seasons as well. In American ones, it happens the exact same way. Something very interesting. If you watch Ashley and Billy, something that Ashley did, which was really, really well. Ashley said, I want to do a check-in with you. I want to see where you are. Right? This is like episode 8. And she said, I want to see where you are, me and you, Billy. I don't want to take it for granted. Where are you, Billy, right now? How are you feeling about the marriage? Because I'm feeling like I'm ready to marry you. What are you telling me? And Billy was like, you know what? I'll be honest with you, I'm 50-50. Damn, her heart was crushed. But you know what it was? The check-in was essential. The check-in was essential. Why? Because she was unwilling to rush ahead and not double check and make sure where she's at right now. Some of us want to fall in love, fairy tale. What does that mean? It means we want to start the car and we just want to go. We don't want to check our left, our right, our mirrors. We don't want to check if our fuel gauge is down, our fuel is down. We just want to get our foot on the thing and just go. We want the fairy tale. I fell in love and then it was amazing and it was wonderful. And we just did it. And then you forget that you still need to do your checks. We forget that we need to do check-ins. We forget we need to see where the other person is. We forget to see, okay, what are you feeling? We just start imposing how we feel onto them. Because look, after 1 or 2 conversations, he would have clocked she's an avoidant. And maybe it's just me. And the word avoidant that's not a universal term. So let me say this. After 1 or 2 conversations, you would have clocked that something isn't quite right. What does that mean? It means that the way that they show up, it's the way they talk about things, it's the way that they dissect things. If someone tells me they've been cheated on several times, I'm already questioning your self-worth. I'm sorry. I don't care what you've got to say to me. I don't want to hear nothing. You know what I'm saying to you? I'm going to start looking at you. If you say to me, oh, I'm a hopeless romantic and I just, it just never works out for me, I'm going to start judging you. And you should start judging too. Right? If I've told you that I was in Egypt and I had a hoe face, you better start judging me. Okay, you better start judging me. Why am I saying judge? And judgment in this area, it's not condemnation. Make a difference. Make you see the difference. I said judgment. I didn't say condemnation. To make a judgment, a righteous judgment, is to take up the evidence you're hearing and then make a righteous judgment. Okay, is this right for me to go forward? Do you see what I'm saying to you? So in that space, it's very important. It's very important just to do your check-ins, not to rush ahead, not to run, just to see where she's at. You know, this is also important. It's a lesson to learn.
No, it blindsided me as well. I had a connection with 2 people. Do you know what I mean? You both spoke to different sides of me.
Yeah.
I was tearing until probably the very, very end.
So old girl tells us, listen, I was blindsided too. Katisha, and you see and that's why I know that Katisha's not she's got some work to do, because like I said, and this is her, okay, this is her and also Javen. They are 2 peas in a pod when it comes to their avoidancy. You see how Javen was elusive when I interviewed him? And you see how she is also somebody who withholds information. They're 2 peas in a pod. This is why when I say about relationships, people think that they think this has to be one. No, they're both the same people, right? They just operate in very slightly different ways. So you see that she was withholding information to Javen about what really happened with Demola because she was afraid of what she'll be judged by. And because she hasn't got emotional safety in the area of being critiqued or being called out or being told that you're wrong, or even just saying that, you know what, we call it making mistakes, right? Being able to hold being able to be confident enough to be able to say, you know what, I'm okay to accept that I was wrong. But when you've got shame and guilt around the area of when I make a mistake, I feel bad. I feel like it's me. I'm a problem. I'm evil. I'm not good. I am. And fearful avoidance, this is one of their things. They think that they're bad. They will tell you they don't think they are, but inadvertently when they're speaking about it, you'll hear them say it. I'm a bad person. Oh, I know I corrupt people. Oh, I know I hurt people. I know that I do. And they'll tell you these things. Right, and so what's actually happening is that their low self-esteem, their low esteem of themselves, okay, makes it very difficult at the same time to be safe. in that environment of making mistakes, because then it ties into their personhood rather than their behaviors. I'm a bad person rather than I've done a bad thing. It's two different things. I've done a bad thing. It's not the same as I'm a bad person. Now, coming then obviously to Demola, how does that play a role with Demola then? Well, the question is, why did Demola want to deal with somebody like Katisha? Why would he want to? Because she is speaking his language. She speaks his language. What's his language? The chase. The same way that Javen was speaking her language. Chase. Right? The chase. The chase is what? You come and get me. And prove your worth. Now, she's not saying that. But what the pattern of thought process for Demola is when you're, and again, it's this is my opinion. Again, it's not the truth. I'm not a psychologist, so before anybody quotes me, but Demola is somebody who, again, I think is more of an anxious person. And what's the one thing that's going to ginger them? The ginger them is I get to chase somebody who's unattainable and I can catch them. And finally, that would mean that I'm special. It would mean that I'm worthy. It would mean that I'm loved. I'm cared for. Right? It's why they chase people that usually run away. It's why they hold on to situations longer than they actually should. It's why they paint things with a fairy brush instead of actually looking at it in real aspect, because then they would have to deal with the real time thing in front of them, right? Okay, so these are things that are happening as they do this. Okay, all right. So that fast pursuit that he might have put forward, the blindsidedness as well, which is fair. I mean, he was blindsided towards the end. But I feel like there was probably some signs and he was probably not necessarily looking at them as well. And I think for her, she was, she said she felt blindsided, but how do you feel blindsided? Like, how does Katisha feel blindsided? She's the one that made the decision. So how can she feel blindsided? No, you could be confused. You could be confused. You could be, as you said, teetering on the edge. But how are you blindsided? You made a choice. And so here's what and I'll probably reiterate this towards the end. This is really important because for Katisha and for Demola, it's important to pay attention to your results. It's important to pay attention to your results. It's important to pay attention to your results. What does that mean? It means when you don't get the desired result you have, you should go back with an eagle eye to look over what happened to how you got to where you got to. Why? Because what you want to do is you want to be able to see something. Patterns. Now, within that space with Demola and Katisha, when you look at this scenario, for Katisha specifically, right? She needs to look at the fact that you've actually made choices as to why you're here. This didn't happen to you. You made a choice. And a lot of people in the dating realm are too used to saying it happened to me rather than I made a choice. They're too used to being a victim and not actually being empowered that they're making choices. You're choosing things. And until you're ready to say, I'm choosing, I made a choice, I did this, you're not going to feel empowered. You're going to always feel like life is happening to you, not you are making life happen. And that's what both Demola, Javen, and Katisha are going to have to learn.
Yeah, I just felt a bit stuck.
Yeah.
When I had my next date with Javen, I was like, oh my God. Mm-hmm. It was kind of like a 360, 180.
Did you genuinely think that you could see a future or anything with me?
Yeah, like this is why it was so hard, because
now, like I said, having been through some things like this similarly, do you know what I clocked? I had a situation. had a situation. I had a situation which is very similar to Demola's situation, and I clocked something. I deeped it. I said, usually I'm a person that asks a lot of questions. I'm a person that asks a lot of questions. But in this occasion with this young lady that I had a situation with, I recognized that I talked a hell of a lot more. Talking's not bad. Talking's good. You want to be able to share some stuff. When I say talking, what I mean by that is I was doing what Demola was doing. I was announcing, I was pronouncing, I was declaring, and I was speaking in a way where I'm not about sharing stuff, but it's very much about, I feel this, I feel that, but then never really opening space for you to come into the conversation to share where you stand. Do you know how I know that Demola didn't do that? Because he had to ask her, did you really see a future of me? And I said that in a sense of, thank you for sharing that, Suzette, you know, right? Thank you for sharing that. I said in a sense of, it's more important to understand when you feel something to know exactly where they stand. Do you know what I'm saying to you? Just to really be able to pay attention to what's actually happening. I know he did a little check-in. I know he did a little part. I'm not saying he didn't do any at all, but there was because of how deep he was, because he was deep. He was deep. I'm just being honest with you. He was deep. And I'm being fair, because I said the same thing about the ladies too. I said the same thing about the ladies. And a lot of times and I think from my perspective, it's what it is. A lot of times the truth will come out in a year's time, where he's like, when I look back at the relationship, I realized I could have done that better. Right? Do you see what I'm saying to you? I'm not saying that she didn't. We know she promised him. This one is, I'm not going to deny that. You get what I'm saying to you? I'm not going to deny that she didn't promise him. And that one is in its own thing. That's the manipulation. That's the, whatever, right? I'm talking about because remember, it's 11 days. It is 11 days. And I believe people do lie. Of course, I do. I believe people will lie. Absolutely. Do I think Katisha lied, though, in the situation? I don't think she, you know what I mean? I think she was coy, and that's different from lying. You know what I mean? I think she was intentional of how she held back some of her thoughts and feelings. You know what I'm saying to you? Right? I think she was just like Javen, where she didn't open up, she did not share everything she was feeling in those pods. I think she was just like Javen, the same way, withholding information. And I said it at the time when I reviewed it, that she was withholding.
It felt like you were at a really good spot, but I wasn't quite there. Ultimately, I just felt like with Javen, the connection was just stronger with him.
Now that's really interesting. Okay, now this is really interesting, because why is it that she said you were there, but I wasn't really there? Can I tell you the truth? Can I tell you the truth? Can I tell you the truth? And again, this is my perspective. Again, I want to put it out there so before no one comes after me. The situation I was in, okay, the situation I was in, right? The person's actions showed me what they did not say. But I chose to fill in the gap because they were still dealing with me rather than dealing with them based upon the actions they were actually doing. Let me see one more time. A situation that I got involved, very similar to Demola's one, is that I had a narrative in my head already. My feelings were forming the narrative, and my own insecurities about how I felt about myself and the individual person. The person was actually showing me what their true answer is in their heart of hearts through their actions. But the way they were dealing with me was as if they were in the same place I was in. So let's say I like you, I want you, I want to be in a relationship with you. You might say, you know, I'm getting there. And you'll show me, you come, you'll get close to me, but you never, you can tell by the way that they're moving that they are inconsistent with you. Look, if they're inconsistent with you, they're consistent with somebody else. Just saying at the very beginning at least. Okay, at the very beginning at least. All right. Later on, we know that things can change because obviously people get scared, but in the very beginning, right? And so when you start noticing some of those behaviors, you go, oh, no, it can't be that. It can't be that. No. And you start making excuses for them. Oh, it means this, it means that. Oh no, and, you know, and you start making all these excuses. I get where they're coming from because, you know, I see how tough it is. She just told us that she knew that he was in a good spot, but she wasn't there. So why did you give him the promise then? Why did you give him the promise? So now you have to look at it differently. Now you have to look at her differently. Right? And here's the interesting thing. I don't know if they cut out parts, because they probably did, but I wonder how much Demola was able to really say in this moment. Because this should have been a call out. This should have been, hold on a minute now. Hold on a minute now.
At the time, I was like, you don't care. You can't care about me. And
I think they cut something out. They cut something out.
I understand you saying that. Like you said, you were blindsided, and I can completely understand why you would say that. If I'm honest, I probably was burying my head in the sand a little bit because I was like, I don't want to make it.
Right? Because him holding his thing like that and looking up, I don't know if he had more to say, and I wonder if they cut it or whatever. But there'd have been some. It would have been good to kind of hear what his perspective would have been at that time as well, because I'm sure there'd been more that was going on in that space as well. So, alas, you know, there was in that space. You know, I wish they would have allowed that process to be really said, because I think there was a lot more that was probably going to be said in that moment that would have been very important. You know. And it looked like it was saying something that was, you know what I mean? Like, I hope he was going to say something, if not, you know?
Decision. Like, I don't want to hurt either of these guys, but ultimately, I just felt like I had to be honest with myself.
Yeah. No, I get that.
It was tough.
But overall, like, this whole experiment, has it been going? You're happy? And
Yeah.
Now, I don't know, because again, this whole situation. I would have loved to have Demola on I would have loved to hear Demola say whatever he was trying to say, because honestly, she got away with it. Because she didn't even hold herself accountable to be like, and all the things keep being like, you know, it was tough for me, it was this, it was that, it was that. It's very self-centered, right? And of course, it's very self-centered because, again, she doesn't want to be the bad guy. Her whole thing is to avoid being the bad guy, and a lot of avoidants do this. Dismissive avoidants do the exact same thing. When they don't want to argue with you, when they're conflict avoidant, they don't want to be the bad guy or bad girl. But by not having the argument, they end up becoming the bad person anyway, because now you're frustrated at them dodging.
Yeah, it's been challenging throughout, but like, yeah, it's good. Yeah,
no, I'm just glad, like, as I said, as long as you're happy and like you see yourself going all the way, then I'll be one of your cheerleaders there. So, you know,
I won't lie to you, I wouldn't be one of your cheerleaders. I'm just gonna be honest with you. See me, I got a better streak in me. I ain't gonna lie to you, I got a better streak in me. I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not gonna be your biggest cheerleader. I'm just gonna be real with you. I'm not. We're not friends. We can't be friends. I'm not trying to hope to get it. No. Because once I'm done now, I gotta be done. I gotta be out. I can't play with that game with you. Okay? I can't play that game with you. That's that niceness again. Okay, that's that niceness again, playing a massive role, right? Playing a massive role again, right? Rather than telling his true thoughts, unadulterated thoughts.
Thank you. But please stay a lover boy.
I don't know if I will.
Please.
We'll see. Good guys finish last. That's the saying.
Oh, don't
No,
say
no,
that.
don't do that.
You need to keep all of the.
No, she's like, oh, don't say that. Yeah, no, yeah, because you changed it, and you don't want the responsibility of the fact that you changed him. But it's okay. Okay, it's okay. So yes, and yes, he did. He had a conversation with Javen, and he did definitely tell the truth about how he felt. Yes, he definitely told the truth about how he felt with Javen. Yes, he definitely did. He told the truth. He said, "Listen, do you want a girl that changes her mind 24 hours later?" He told the truth on that one. Because again, he too is afraid, and I get it. Listen, on a national television, it probably is very scary. He's afraid though of the lashback, and that's why I said, I mean, listen, whatever you think of Javen, I can appreciate the fact that he was honest about it in some respects, in some, you know, but he's afraid of the lashback instead of just thinking about just saying what you need to say, you know. But that's again that niceness we're talking about. That you're unable to tell your truth about what you really feel. This costs you aspect. This tells me you're going to miss red flags.
The good things because they're great.
Yeah, no, 100%. But only I'll save it for like the right person, right? Again. So
yeah,
everything happens for a reason, right? So yeah.
And so he's and listen, this is my thing too, right? Okay, this is my thing too. He not trying to be angry. Yeah, he's trying to avoid being a bad guy too. He's not trying to be angry. And this tells me that you have a bad relationship with anger. Anxious people, avoidance, all have a bad relationship with anger. They all do. You know, they all have a bad relationship with anger. And I'll tell you why they have a bad relationship with anger. Because when you respond like this, it tells me that you're not comfortable being angry. You know, it tells me you're not comfortable being angry because anger shouldn't lead you to having to have an outburst where you blow up. But the avoidance and the anxious people associate anger with a blow up. They associate anger with you losing your ish. They associate anger with being very mean and rude and toxic and but they don't recognize that anger doesn't have to be displayed. No, what you're talking about is an action that you take from anger. Anger isn't the issue. It's an emotion. It tells you something. It tells you you've been violated, or it tells you that you're frustrated about not reaching your goal. Okay. So that again goes back to the attachment style we're talking about, where we need to start working within that space. This is stuff that we talk about in coaching all the time. I do this. I tell my clients we have an exercise, and some of my clients, they know who they are. We have an exercise where I say, "Tell me how you feel when there are no consequences and no repercussions." Right? That's what I tell my clients, and we do this thing exercise. I tell them, listen, tell me how you feel without you PCing it for me, you slapping a plaster on it. I want to know how you feel, without necessarily swearing, how you feel about this scenario, okay, in its truest form. And when they normally give me the first answer, it's very like, I don't like what they did. By the time they free the reins, they're cussing the person out. Now, do I want you to cuss the person out? No, but I want you to understand that when I say cussing the person out, I'm saying that very loosely, by the way, again. What I mean by that is free the realness. Because what you're really doing is that you're withholding how you really feel. And a lot of us do this not only with other people, we do it with God. We do it with God, right? Like some people say, listen, I can't question God. I don't question God. I was like, no, I will question God. I'll ask him questions. I've got to. Because what the heck is going on? You know? What we're doing right now, bro? Oh, I can't be angry at God. I'm angry at God. I'm angry at him. I'm disappointed. I'm angry at points. I'm even disgusted. At some points, I'm fearful. At some points, I'm happy and I'm excited. At some points, I'm frustrated with him. At some points, I'm apathetic. I have different emotions that I have, and there are things that God will do that will literally blow your mind. You'll be so excited, and there are things that you tell, and the things that the God will do, you're like, who is this God, bro? Why? You're stressing me out, bro. You're stressing me out. And you see, the thing is, what we believe, and I'm just kind of, bring this round to a close, is that like God is like some of the human beings that we deal with. What does that mean? It means we don't believe that human beings are very secure. So when they're not secure, what we feel is, if I tell God this, I'll be struck down with thunder and lightning. Oh, if I tell God this, he won't bless me. If I tell God this, the connection between us will sever. No, God is a very secure God. A very secure God. Now, am I saying to go out there and start effing and blinding that God? No, probably not. You know what I mean? Not because you're gonna get shut down, because it's just not gonna be productive. That's if you want to talk to a human being like that, don't speak to God like that. But what I'm saying to you is, God's a very secure God. You can tell him what your true sentiments and feelings are. Because every time you don't get to show up as your full self. This is very important. Okay, but look, I want to break that down for you guys as well. I do need to do a little breakdown of thingy, because this. I really want to do this breakdown between Ashley and Thingy, because I really was intrigued by this argument here.
And just want to pick me up, give me cake.
It's probably the first time we've really had a large difference in opinion, and I felt like I was justifying a lot of my reasonings why I wouldn't necessarily always go for what she.
Now, this argument was really interesting, and I need to go and watch it properly again, because the argument was, it's not silly, because again, nothing's trivial. It was just interesting because I could understand how difficult it would be in this scenario, and it's indicative of when relationships struggle, because sometimes you're too close to your own relationship that you can't give a solution. They were arguing about food. Okay, I'm a well-trained person. I don't eat badly. Great. I'm somebody that eats badly. Okay, great. What are we going to do with the cooking? Okay, well, we'll find a solution. You may not be able to cook my meals. I may have to cook my own meals in that sense. And then maybe I can, once a week or whatever, we can cook together or whatever. We'll eat the same meal. I don't mind having a cheat day. Okay, cool. Right? But because he felt threatened by her, he felt threatened by her particular need to want to have the sugars and the sweets. I think he felt like she was impeding on him and his routine. And I think he was, and I know he's an avoidant, because that's a classical avoidant move. Let me tell you why it's a classical avoidant move. It's a classical avoidant move because actually what's happening is he's already foreseeing the future. Let me tell you what's happening. And this is why conversation is important. What he's seeing is this. It's not you having food in the cupboard. Oh, no. It's not you having food in the house. Oh, no. It's you are going to finally try and tell me that I shouldn't be eating in my routine. You're going to try and influence me. And I don't want that to happen. So I want to shut it down before it even gets there. Because what avoidants struggle to do is to have what we call the ability to have fluid boundaries. It's very rigid. Like, he's a very rigid man. And it's not a bad thing, but it's a bad thing. Do you know what I'm saying to you? Because he's unable to switch. And the reason why is because, again, when it comes to boundaries, the way that a boundaries works for an avoidant person is routine. It's routine. So for him, right, the moment that his routine is going to be affected, his boundaries are affected. So some healing work has to happen here for him. She's not trying to break your routine, but you're afraid of her breaking your routine. And I get it. I do it. So he's been very rigid. He's been very, very rigid. Because all it required was him to say, listen, hey, you have your cupboard. Do what you want to do. You know, I want us to eat together, but I recognize that, you know what, you need to eat, I need to eat. So you know what, we'll cook our separate meals, but let's try and eat together. Right? So what we can do is look for another way that we can come together. So we want to eat together. Sorry, apologies. We may not eat the same meal, because I recognize that I'm a very detailed, routine person, and I don't want you to be robbed of your food, right? But what I will say, maybe as a suggestion, is that, okay, look, we'll cook at roughly about the same time or whatever, or I have my meal prep ready, and then I'll come and I'll eat with you at the same time, so that we're both eating together. So we still got some level of experience of us doing something together. We may not have necessarily ate the same food, but we're cooking together, right? That can also be a way of bonding. Remember, it's not essentially eat the same meal. Okay? Right? So that aspect. Yes, he is worried about his own lack of control around forbidden foods. Yes, he is. Because again, it's about boundaries. It's about routine. It's about, if he sticks to this, it will work. So I do understand that. But I'll discuss them a little bit later, tomorrow. I'll discuss them tomorrow. You know, I think tomorrow's gonna be you know, interesting. Yeah, the cabin dislike. He's the reason why he doesn't like cabin crew is because a past relationship. That's what happened. A past relationship, they kept on missing each other. That's what I think it was about. So yeah. But anyway, listen, we're going to break this down another time. But shout out to Ebbs as well. Thank you very much for joining the membership. Tomorrow will be live as well to talk about this as well. So, you know, I'll definitely break some stuff down for you tomorrow as well about the Billy stuff, because I love that as well. Okay. But make sure you guys like, share, subscribe. You click on that bell button for notification of uploads. We appreciate you guys. Stay locked, so we'll see you again soon. Much love.